Detroit, Michigan police officers, fired off 38 shots in 3 seconds, killing a young black man amid a mental health crisis. 20-year-old Porter Burks, who suffered from schizophrenia, was having an episode on Sunday night when his family called for help. The Detroit police released 7 minutes of body cam footage. It shows how a family member is describing the situation to officers. The police trying to reason with Porter to drop the knife he was carrying and the time the fatal shots were fired. Now, the video, of course, we're about to show you is triggering. And so if you don't want to see it, you can certainly, now it's time to walk away. And so go ahead and play the video. I'm going to speak over the video while it is playing. Now, folks, it's not clear how many of the 38 bullets hit Porter. Jeffrey Feiger, the Burks family attorney, he also said Porter would still be alive if Michigan had the resources to care for its mentally ill. I'm going to play that in a second. Go ahead and roll the video. This is the thing that we keep talking about on the show, Reese, Erica, and Greg. It reminds us of course, what happened in Rochester, where the city now is paying a family $12 million for the death of Daniel Prude. He suffered a mental health crisis, prompting his brother to call 911. Officers had a brief interaction with him before they pushed him face down on the asphalt with one officer's knee on his back. And again, he died. The city took responsibility for it with a settlement, but did not acknowledge any wrongdoing in his death. This is one of the greatest scares of a number of black parents, Erica, and that is calling police when a loved one is having a mental health episode. They end up dead. We covered this. You had Kajima Powell in St. Louis. You had the young man in who was playing with a screwdriver, and literally officers are showing up on the scene and firing shots within seconds, as opposed to dealing with someone who is having a breakdown. And same thing, of course, the Pamela Turner case in Baytown, Texas, where the trial has started this week, where the officer there shot and killed her when she was having a mental health episode.
Yeah, Roland. And there's no other platform that covers at the level that Roland Martin Unfiltered does. One of the things that I want to mention is that, this young man, Porter Rooks, was 20 years old. And I've been traveling a bit this month. This past month, September was Suicide Awareness Month. And I had the privilege of talking to a lot of young people who had been in college for a year or so, and just talking about from 2020 to 2021, specifically around depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideations. Suicidal ideations remain flat. A particular study that I'm talking about of college students, but depression. There was a 22% increase in depression, and anxiety, a 10.1% increases. And some of the things that these young people were telling me, you're talking about young folks the same age as the late Porter, you're talking about they were traversing through not only COVID, but just a number of depression, anxiety because of the way the world was operating, things that were happening at home. And so this is why we're continuing to see amongst young people a very significant mental health crisis that definitely, those specialists have continued to sound the alarms about even before COVID-19. So here we are with the police assassinating another Black body, and then doing something that we've seen all too familiar, which is handcuffing this person who is now transitioned. And then I read that they actually dumped his body by the hospital. So when you're talking about mental health, when you're talking about human experience, and then you're talking about law enforcement, for someone, and I've been very honest and vulnerable about this, that has a suicide safety plan in place. I have that in place because I would not, especially during the very, very early parts of my brain injury, would not want to have, and this was, a decision as well, would not want to have any part of law enforcement if I were to have a break, if I were to go into crisis, so to speak. I would want people that I trust, people that have had some type of mental health first aid training, people who are not trigger happy, who are not state station assassins around me. So I think that as we continue to really talk about these things, realizing the impact that it's having on people around us, Also, to understand that for folks that are listening to this, if you do have somebody who's in a mental health crisis, and not saying not to, there are other numbers that you can call as well. If you do have to call law enforcement, do what needs to be done. But please make sure that, all efforts are exhausted to get, unless having to get law enforcement, involved, because as we see here with this young 20-year-old man, the consequences continue to be lethal, and definitely send condolences to his family and hope that they absolutely get what it is that they should get in terms of some responses for the way that law enforcement engaged Mr. Ruggs.
Reese, you've had people who have criticized defund the police, those who advocate for shifting of resources. They've talked about for mental illness. There have been so many cases in this country where people literally are dead as a result of sending police officers to the scene to deal with mental health crisis. We also have the story, it was also in Rochester, where they put a bag over this young man's hand and he was suffocated as a result. The reality is San Francisco, they made changes to their policy there, shifting resources, and when they would get a mental health call, they would send a mental health worker to the scene first and not police.
Absolutely. I mean, I know that there's an inclination for people to say, Black families stop calling the police when your family member is having a mental health episode. But I think we can all agree that that is the absolute last resort. And so what we need to do as a society, it's not going to be a more instant fix to fix these trigger happy cops who think they can just kill Black people at will and get away with it. However, like you just mentioned in San Francisco, we can get more mental health resources to these places and try to offload some of the work that is going straight to the police to people who are trained professionals. But in addition to that, we need to make more investments in mental health, period. By the time somebody's having an episode, there are multiple steps and there are multiple times that somebody could have intervened if they had access to mental health resources. You're down in Georgia, Roland, and I believe you are too, Erica. In Georgia, 94% of the counties have a mental health shortage professional. Stacey Abrams is a person who wants to fix that. Brian Kemp is not. Raphael Warnock, who's running for Senate, has put forth several pieces of legislation to increase access to mental health. So as we look towards the elections, we're not going to be able to solve policing with the stroke of a pen, but we can at least make a lot more progress towards mental health if we keep in mind the policies and the people that are really pushing forward, genuinely increasing mental health access. Not when a mass shooting happens and then the Republicans try to say, oh, well, it's mental health, but they don't do a doggone thing to get those accesses, those resources expanded. We can put the people in place that will do it now.
And Greg, here it's very simple. You take Rochester; they just had a $12 million settlement. I wonder how much of their city budget goes to mental health services. I mean, and this is the thing: we're now seeing multi-million-dollar settlements reaching in excess of $1 billion, and so cities are spending money to settle police abuse cases. If folk rethink how we police in this country, we could be spending that money on mental health and these type of crises. And I keep telling people, it's death. You ain't coming from that.
That's exactly right, Ronald. I mean, we've seen different polities take different actions. I mean, for many years I lived in Philly. Right across the bridge from Philadelphia, South Jersey, is Camden. Camden has had terrible challenges because of the collapsing economy of Camden, not because the people are somehow less than human, with crime and those kind of things. Well, a new police chief came in and began to implement a transformational strategy, including neighborhood policing and getting out of the cars and walking around. And as a result, you saw the interactions with police improve. Now, these killers, this death squad, this assassination squad, these punk paterollers, excuse my French, these less than men who set out to execute. Well, we know that some of the body camera footage that has been released was as a result of the crisis intervention officer who was trying to tell this young man to put the knife down. I mean, the man was brandishing a saber. So, I mean, wait, no. It was a 3.5-inch knife. He'd killed some tires. You can't reform that. So listen, folks hiring police, stop hiring these punks whose manhood is in the trigger finger on their hands. Too bad this young brother was not Kyle Rittenhouse, who could walk around with an automatic weapon and go out murdering people and the police give him some water. It's very simple. You can't reform policing until you transform policing. This can't be reformed. And you're right, Roland. I mean, ultimately, that $12 million settlement in Rochester is going to come out of the pockets of taxpayers. And this settlement out of Detroit is going to come out of the pockets of taxpayers. That's not going to bring Quiana Wilson, her baby boy, back. I mean, looking at her, how many times have we seen these distraught mothers and fathers with these looks of anguish on their face? It's not going to take them back. What's going to stop this is the police is going to stop killing black people when we stop them. When we stop them. And, if you don't want this to turn out into all
the key you said there.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead,
bro. You said that when you said transform. You say reform, you said transform. But
yes,
I just have to keep reminding people again, when someone says they're gone, a check does not cut it. I don't care how much it is. I don't care if the settlement was $50 million.
That's right.
It's still gone. And again, 20 years old, expectancy, 74 years old. Brother had 50 plus years of life ahead of him, now gone. And so that's what is so sad there. And so hopefully we'll see more mayors and city councils realize they should be investing in mental health services. And that's a staggering number you gave, Reese. 94% of the counties here in Georgia. Is that what you said?
Counties. 94% of the counties have a mental health professional shortage.
Yeah, and I was there when that collapse started. That started back in like 06, 07. And it was bad just watching those behavioral health services collapse.
All right, folks, back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
When we invest in ourselves, we're investing in what's next for all of us. Growing, creating, making moves that move us all forward. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?